Let's begin.
Hey there, scary story fanatics. Welcome back to Cleaving Thought from Bone with your host, Sociopathic. It's time to wrap up this nightmare, or so we hope, because the worst of dreams are bound in reality. So, as long as you're here and ready to fear, dread the coming of Doughboy420's Dreamscape finale, Part 5, The Madness.
I had traveled through the dreamscape and seen its beauty and splendor. The dreams and the colors hanging out of space. I seen the house that we had been working on, the old mansion in all of its glory. I'd seen the beauty of the world of dreams, the place where our mind goes when we rest. During the moments of fluttering eyes within our sleep, this is where we reside. I also seen the darkness of this world, twisted shadow things, the things that turned our dreams into nightmares and tainted this beautiful world. I also had traveled through the caverns within the walls of the house, the cave that should not be in the world that could not be. I had felt the heat within the cave. I had felt the wind that carried it. Like hot steam from an oven, it wafted toward me, bringing with it a drier heat. So hot, it took my breath away. I had also smelled that putrid aroma that the wind carried. The odor of rotting and burning flesh, a disgusting and wretched smell, a smell that nearly killed me. I was carried away by unseen hands for a second time, toward the eye, the crimson eye of a burning torment. The eye I had seen was an opening to a wider cavern, and down below me was a sea of molten lava with fires burning all around. At the cavern's bottom is where I found him, the beast, the thing with 1,000,000 appendages, the monster with a squid for a head and 100 wings, the thing with a deep pain, a deep sorrow. The thing had called to me and begged for my help, and I gave it. After my agreement, there was a flash of light, and I felt as if I were losing myself. The white soon changed to black, and I felt myself losing consciousness. I felt as if I were dying. But unfortunately, that was not the case. When my eyes opened, I was yet again in a foreign place. I found myself in a cold room. It was dimly lit, and I was laying upon a bed that was bolted to the wall of the room. The walls were an off-white color, and as I reached out my hand and placed it upon a foreign wall, I found that they were soft to the touch. They were padded. I was in a padded cell. What was I doing here? "Where am I?" I asked, looking around, confused. "How did I get here? What am I doing here?" I continued. "Where am I?" I screamed in panic. It was then that the door slid open, and I was greeted by a man. He was wearing a doctor's jacket and held up a clipboard in his hands. He was a nearly middle-aged man, around his mid to late 30s. His hair was a light brown color, and it was parted at the side. He wore glasses and had a gentle smile upon his face. "Go on in, Dr. Ward," I heard a guy say from the hallway behind the doctor. "If you need us, we'll be right outside the door," he continued. "I don't think that will be necessary," the doctor said before he stepped inside, and the door closed behind him. "Hello, sir. How are you today?" Dr. Ward asked. "Where am I?" I asked. How did I get here? I continued, with panic in my voice. I'm Dr. Herbert Ward, and you're in St. Margaret's Hospital. Dr. Ward answered. Why am I in a hospital? What happened? I asked, even more panicked. You don't remember what happened? The doctor questioned. What do you mean, what happened? I asked, my breathing quickening. You were admitted over a week ago. You don't remember coming here? The doctor questioned, a look of concern upon his face. No. What happened? How did I get here? I asked, my eyes wide with fear and my heart nearly stopping from fear. You don't remember what happened before coming here either? Dr. Ward asked. What happened? What happened to me? Why am I here? I continued, asking one question after another, now in a total panic. Amnesia is a common coping mechanism for patients such as yourself. It helps to cope with what you did. But you need to face what you did in order to overcome it. You need to accept what you did so that you can heal yourself. The doctor told me in a calm voice and very compassionate manner. Cope with what I did? What are you talking about? What did I do? I asked in a bit of an outrage. I'm gonna have to ask you to calm down. Need I remind you that the guards are right outside for my protection? The doctor reminded me. Calm down? I started, nearly lashing out at the man before realizing my situation and backing away from him and letting him be aware of my compliance. I was between a rock and a hard place. I didn't know what the guards would do if they had to be called in. What did I do? I asked, now in a calmer manner. Collect yourself, because I'm afraid the situation is a bit grim. I'm sorry to tell you, but you murdered your uncle. The doctor told me with a sincerity in his voice. What? I exclaimed. I wouldn't murder my uncle. You have the wrong guy. I yelled at him. Sir, we'll have to give you another warning. I don't want to have to call them in to restrain you, Dr. Ward said, referring to the guards outside the door. I again complied. At least, as much as my outrage would allow me. I didn't kill my uncle. My uncle's not dead. I'm innocent, I told him, but he kept to his story. When the police broke down the door, they found you inside, covered in your uncle's blood. His remains were found upstairs in one of the bedrooms. His blood had been smeared across the walls to form what appeared to be images that were satanic in nature. Dr. Ward continued. What? I asked, in shock by what the doctor just told me. I didn't do that. That didn't happen. I was in a dreamscape. I didn't do that. I yelled at him, still backed into a corner so as to not alert him too much. Yes, the dreamscape. The world of dreams and nightmares. I'm afraid this is a delusion brought on to replace the real nightmare of what you really did. The doctor told me in a completely calm and compassionate yet condescending way. No, I was there. I seen it. I seen the colors and the dreams. I seen the nightmares and the monsters that made them. I seen the darkness and I seen the beast. I seen him. It happened, I exclaimed. My uncle's not dead. That's not real. That didn't happen, I continued, screaming at the doctor. Sir, this is your third and final warning. Calm down, he began. No, I interrupted. That didn't happen. I didn't kill my uncle. I don't belong here, I yelled as the doctor jumped to his feet and called for the guards. The door opened and two large men rushed through. They jumped onto me and pinned me down onto the bed, holding my arms while the other held my legs. I struggled against them and screamed and yelled at them and the doctor. Stop, I exclaimed. I didn't kill my uncle, I yelled. Let me go, I continued as I kicked and punched, flailing about as I tried to free myself. A tall orderly dressed in a white jumpsuit then entered through the door, a syringe in his hand. No, stop, I yelled, still struggling uselessly against the two large guards as the orderly approached with the syringe. He stuck the needle into my arm and injected the clear substance inside into my vein. I struggled against him, nearly breaking the needle's tip off in my arm. The orderly withdrew the needle and backed away from me. I continued to struggle for a few more moments before I began to feel my body becoming weak and then going limp. I had lost all my energy. The guards loosened their grip and eventually released me as I began to drift off. As I drifted off, I thought about what the doctor had said and what I had agreed to. I had agreed to help the beast. Had he possessed me? Had he made me kill my uncle? Did I actually kill my uncle? No, I couldn't have. Could I? I fell asleep, a dreamless sleep. I could finally rest again. I awoke in the evening with a splitting headache. I had hoped that it had all been a dream, but I was disappointed. I was still in my padded cell. I was in the real world now. I began to think. Again. I thought about the dreamscape and all the things that happened. All the places that I had been and all the things that I had seen. But then I began to remember. As I thought about different places within the dreamscape, different images began to flash within my mind. Images of things that I didn't remember, but still had vague memories of. I thought of hands grabbing onto me. With it, I seen my uncle grabbing onto me, shaking me. I then thought of the orbs of dreams. I seen my uncle's eyes looking at me, pleadingly. Then I seen the creatures, the shadow things, turning the dreams into nightmares and clouding the dream spheres like smoke in a bubble, turning the dreams to nightmares. Then I seen my uncle's eyes change to a clouded-over color, my eyes staring into his as they went blank. Then I remembered being drawn through the cave by unseen hands, and the red eye getting larger and larger. I then seen my hands prying his hands off my clothing, his white shirt now stained with a dark crimson spot, a spot shaped like an eye. The headache was nearly unbearable now, and I held my head in my hands, curling up into a ball, in the fetal position, like a baby in the womb. I began to cry from the pain as the images continued to flash through my further weakening mind. I began to remember things out of order, and my mind became confused. Flashes of different parts of the dreamscape swirled about in my mind's eye. I seen the child's room, with the clowns painted on the walls. The clowns that were still at first, but then danced about the walls. The clowns changed. They changed from happy to evil, from smiling faces to grimacing and menacing ones. They cried tears of blood, and the blood ran down the walls, forming images from that wretched book. Following this, another foreign memory flashed within my mind. I held a dismembered arm in my hand, writing the images upon the walls myself, using the bleeding arm like an oversized paintbrush. I began to feel sick as I began to realize what was happening. Had I really done this? Did this all actually happen? I then remembered the dark walls of the cave, the walls with the blood flowing down them. Then I seen myself walking out the door and out the hallway, the bloody stub of an arm held against the wall, like a disembodied experience. I saw myself running the bloody arm along the wall, leaving a crimson trail to the room of carnage. I remembered walking the winding pathway toward the burning fires below. Then I saw myself walking lazily down the stairs and turning into the living room. There, I saw myself put some of the debris from the house into the fireplace. I then retrieved a lighter from my pocket and lit a fire. The fire soon raged within the fireplace. I flashed between the fireplace and the fires within the cavern, seeing one and then the other, over and over again. Then I saw him. I saw the beast, the monster with 1,000,000 arms and legs, thousands of eyes and mouths, tentacles, and crustacean-like legs all strewn about, wings large and small, blowing burning winds up the cavern and out through the tunnel. I saw his squid head and cat eyes, but he looked different now. More menacing, more evil. He no longer looked at me with pleading eyes. He no longer cried to me. He now had a completely evil aura about him. The beast was no longer chained to the stone, and the fires around him still raged, but now could no longer hold him back. I then saw myself grasp the book within my hands. I read from the wretched book, and I saw myself rocking back and forth. I knew I was speaking, but I could not hear the words. I watched as the blood that covered me soaked the pages in the book, making a drop in the corner, the bottom right corner. Then the blood covered and smeared the next few pages of the wretched book. I then tossed the book into the flames, and the book burst into a bright white flame. I then remembered the bright light after agreeing to help the beast. Then the fire died down a bit, and the room began to fill with a dark, black smoke. Then I remembered the darkness. I had inhaled the fumes of the burning book, and I had fallen unconscious. Did this really happen? Did I forget it all because of a bump on the head? Did I really do this? Did I really create the dreamscape to help forget about all this? No, I couldn't have done this. The thoughts raced through my head, and I could feel myself losing my mind, losing myself further and further. I was panicking, and my head was in pain. Then, suddenly, all was silent. The headache was gone. The pain had ceased, and I was left in peace. I remembered now. I'd been here for days, keeping myself awake, not wanting to go back to that place, not wanting to see the beasts again. It was my beast. It was me. No, it existed. It's real. He's real. The prisoner. No. He's freed now. I freed him. He's real. Did he make me do this? Was he controlling me? I further questioned my sanity. I no longer knew what was real and what was not. I no longer could tell the difference between facts and fictions created by my own mind. I was startled by the sound of a loud crack of thunder so loud it shook the entire hospital, St. Margaret's Hospital for the criminally insane. I arose from my bed and walked over to the barred window that was up near the top of the room, where I could not reach it. I looked up into the rainy sky and saw the lightning flash. The thunder followed soon after. The storm was right overhead. Then I heard the voices again. The voices of the beast, in 1,000 languages, all speaking in foreign tongues, all speaking in my head. Then I looked up and saw the shadow in the sky, the shadow of the beast.
So, there you have it. If the ancient gods have plans for you, you likely won't know it until it's too late. And your too late may be something else's right on time. And speaking of which, make sure to be on time next weekend for more of the gore galore you want more of. And until then, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so I can catch you all again next Saturday.